Hi, my name is Michael Waitze, and welcome back to eCommerce Undercover, where I promise not to ask about anybody's little sister or what they contributed to your business. I'm joined, as always, by my Superman host, Martin Ronfort, whose French name is pretty hard to pronounce. And we have an incredible guest today who's sitting in front of the logo of Loship. We'll talk about Loship in a bit. And our guest today is the co-founder and the CEO of Loship, Trung Nguyen.
Wow. Nice try. Nice try. You speak it right. So just introduce a bit about myself. So my name is Trung Nguyen.
Oh,
and
almost Michael.
Actually,
almost.
Yeah, almost. Actually, my family name is very popular in Vietnam. And even my first name is also one of the most popular first name in Vietnam. So in general, I am the same as other Vietnamese. And somehow when I grew up, I have a little bit different journey comparing to my other Vietnamese. So it clicked to me. It clicked me to my position nowadays.
Yeah. So my name is very easy to pronounce for everybody in the world. Really, Michael. It's the most generic name in the world. When I was in first grade, there were like 4 other boys in the room who also had the name Michael. And it's also a girl's name at some point. So there could have been a girl in the room with the same name. Anyway, I don't want to go down.
If for Vietnamese, if they don't know English, they will speak your name like Mi Chale.
Mi Chale.
If they don't know Vietnamese, if they don't know English, they will speak by Vietnamese way. So when they speak by Vietnamese way, they will speak like Mi Chale.
I love it. Okay.
That's funny. So maybe we should call you Michele from now on. That's funny.
Sure. Sure. And what does that mean we call you? Martin from now?
Martin is fine, yeah.
That's fine. Fair enough.
Martin, yeah, Martin.
I feel we're going to have a lot of fun on this episode. We didn't even start to talk
I have no idea where it's going to go.
we didn't even start to talk about e-commerce and Loship, and we're already having fun.
We're already laughing. So Trung, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? Before we get to Loship, I just want to find out a little bit about who you are. And then I want to talk a little bit about business in the context of that.
So I am Trung. I grew up in a very small city in Vietnam. So, Vietnam is a long country from the north to the south.
Yep.
And I come from the middle. It is a very small town. And if you accidentally go to Vietnam, you will never have any chance to travel to my hometown. Because my hometown.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because my hometown is unknown, and my hometown is there are no any tourism there. So basically, and there people it's very poor village. And then my parents is the first generation of the Vietnamese. In Vietnam we are a communist country, right? So in 1986. We opened the country. So we call it the liberalism, right? Something like
liberalism.
And then, And then my parents accidentally becomes the first generation of the private sector in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And my parents work in the fish and seafood distribution. And we do own a few, the fish boats. And then when I grow up, I learned a lot from my parents. I usually, when I wake up, my parents already leave home. And when I go to sleep, or when I go back to home at night, I never see my parents. So because of that, so I grew up very independently. And then when I was 15 years old, I passed an exam to go to the number 1 high school in Vietnam.
In the whole country?
So in the whole country. And my high school is very famous for science, natural science, mathematics, physics, chemistry, information and technology also. So I go there. I go to the north, to Hanoi, to study there, and then later I go to Korea. I get a full scholarship with Stephen. So I go to Korea and I study in KAIST. KAIST will also called as the MIT of Korea. So if you look at into a lot of Korean startup nowadays, their CEO mostly come from my university.
Did you study in the Korean language, or did you study in English when you were in Korea?
Yeah, so in Korea, I study by English, but I work for the restaurant, Korean restaurant. So I have to learn Korean.
You did.
I can speak Korean. So 10 years ago, my Korean is better than my English. Now my English is better than now my English is better than Korean, because when you learn a language, usually the most difficult part is not about the grammar. The most difficult part is usually about vocabulary.
Right.
So if you don't use a vocabulary, you will forget it.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Korean grammar similar to Vietnamese grammar, or no?
No. So very funny. Okay. So in English, you say, I go to school, right?
Right.
In Vietnamese, we also say, I go school. Okay.
Right.
In Korean, you will say, I school go.
I school go. Yeah, so like Japanese. In Japanese, you would say, Gakko ni ikimasu. School, I go. So it's backwards. It's backwards from English grammar, yeah.
Yeah, right. So in Korean, you say, na hakyo kayo isoyo. So somehow like that. So I school go.
I love it. Did you feel like when you were growing up that you were really independent, or did it take you until you were an adult to figure out what that independence meant?
Very interesting. When I grew up, I never really thought about myself. I really know what I want to do,
Really?
Let me tell you.
Please.
So let me tell you this story. I don't know if a lot of my friends gonna listen to this podcast, but this is a very childhood story. So when I was still childhood, around 7 or 8 years old, right?
Right.
So my village is a very poor village. So it is crazy if you say that one day you're gonna become billionaire, or it will be crazy. It's one day you say something very big dream.
Right.
So in my 8 years old, I used to say with everyone that my mom is the most beautiful woman in my life. When I was 8 years,
okay,
everyone around they laugh at me, and even my mother were also embarrassed.
Right.
Yeah, but later, also that I think one day I will date with one of the most beautiful women in Vietnam.
Okay.
And she must be the Miss Universe, right?
Right.
How do you call it? It's a beauty contest.
A beauty pageant, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and at the time, everyone thinks that I'm crazy, and they just say that you are crazy man, you are crazy boy, and but I never doubt myself about that. I mean, I when I say something, I know what I want.
Right.
When I say something, I just know that one day I will get it. I think about my life like I was the one who were born with the destiny to become something big of this country.
It feels like it.
I mean, yeah, and later in the future, luckily I had a chance to date with the Miss Beauty in Vietnam.
No, lucky
come
on.
And and then when I go back, I tell with my family and my relatives, they have nothing to say. I mean, they cannot laugh at me at all.
Exactly. So you can ask them. So who was the crazy one? Me or you? Because I did what I said I was going to do.
Yeah. So, it's like when you were pointing I think this is a story where it is very common. So when you were pointing a family where your family is very educated,
right,
and it is upper class in the society, it's easier for you to talk about the dream. It's easier to talk about bigger vision, where you want to become, how do you want to become? But when you are working in a lower working class in the society, somehow it will be a big challenging for people to really to speak about their dream, about their what they want to do in their life. And thanks to my parents, I mean, they are the one who always support what I want to do. Even when I still study in my university, I dropped out of college. And my parents, like right on the day, just tell me to go back to my college.
Right.
But I say that is it in my life? I don't know if I'm gonna succeed or not. But I don't think I belong to the academic life. I want to do something like it's more about I want to interact with the people. I want to see the way I impact the people daily life.
So Martin, why don't you share your story a little
Yeah,
bit?
that's completely related to me, right? Because I started my first company, I was 19 years old. I stopped school, very early in my life because I just felt like I was not like the kids in my class. That's it, right? Like everybody had dreams and goals and stuff like that to get a great job. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to work at a consulting company.
I don't want to do that. And
that's not a dream.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And when I stopped school, everybody was like, Martin, you're very crazy. And 2 years after, when I went to Dubai and to Las Vegas and to all of these crazy
rented a helicopter,
they were like, oh, Martin, you are lucky. And
you're very lucky.
I was like, you remember 2 years ago?
You said I was crazy?
I was crazy. No, I'm lucky. No, guys, but just choices and our work and as you said perfectly, just believe in ourselves, right? Like, and we want to do that, and we say, okay, let's do it. So I have a question for you based on everything that you just said. Do you feel that the chance that you took by yourself, like to believe in you and to launch your project and to take your own decision, of course that was great, but do you feel that like in 5 years or 10 years when Loship is going to be a big success and you are going to be like super successful, do you feel that you want to give back to the kids who are 20 years old now and who should believe in their dream and who should also launch their company and do exactly like you?
When I really look back into my past, what I really realized that I already go through a lot of difficult periods in my life.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of difficult, and there are a lot of times when I think back, I really wonder if I was there again.
Right.
Can I really do that again one more time?
Right.
I mean, so whenever I think back, I always think this. Myself is a part, it always braver than myself now. Because that I always have more motivation to do what I want to do in the future. So to right now, when I think about the past, I never regret anything. I never really regret about anything because at the end of the day, I am the kind of the person. Whenever I think about myself, I think if I already overcome that, I already learned something because I make a lot of difficulty. I make a lot of I make a lot of things that is wrong thing.
Right.
And I make a lot of wrong decisions. But it helped me to learn a lot of lessons. And I never feel regret about anything.
Do you think,
Michael, just before you go to your next thought, I just would like to add something to what you just said, because that's very interesting, actually, what you just said that, because I always had this feeling myself also as like a life entrepreneur, let's say, that I never regret anything. Like if I look back at my 10 years of, like building my companies, I'm like, yeah, like everything I did was perfect, but of course it cannot be perfect. Like, no. Of course there is a lot of mistakes that we did, and a lot of chances that we try and we just fail, right? But at every single moment in time when I took a decision, I did my best with the resources that I have, with the knowledge that I have, with the information that I have. And so at the end of the day, when I look back, I don't regret anything because at each moment I did my best and either I succeed or either I learn. And that it just made me better and better and better and better, which means if tomorrow I got to take an important decision,
right,
I know that if I do my best with what I have, it's gonna be all right, because even if I fail, I can learn something. And not a lot of entrepreneurs have this mindset. Most of the people are afraid to do something because of failure,
right,
or because like they say like, oh no, I cannot do that, blah, 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 blah. But if you see that as just a way to learn and just be better and more prepared for not the next decision, but the decision in 2 or 3 times, then it's fine. It's just like an iterative process about learning, and you just get better and better and better. And at the end of the day, you don't regret anything.
Right. So I'm releasing, I want to comment on that, because I think both of you are saying something that's really interesting. And then I have something for you in a second. I'm going to be releasing an episode this weekend from somebody called Xian Ko, and she's one of the co-founders of the Hustle Fund.
Okay.
And one of the things that she said to me in this recording, which I loved, was, early stage companies and seed stage investors are optimizing for the same thing. They're optimizing for learning, right? And I love that as a concept. And the more you think about that, then there is no such thing as failure. I mean, sure, something can go wrong, but the reality is, particularly when you're young, if you're learning, you're succeeding. But you said something, actually, Trung, that was really interesting. I look back at the younger me and think, do I have the same amount of courage today that I had then? Because you don't look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. You look back and say, that was really courageous, right or wrong. So I guess I'm curious, how do you maintain as you get bigger? Because when you're younger, you really have nothing to lose. So even if everything goes wrong, you're not going to die. And if you're not employing 100 people, you're not really impacting anybody else's life except your own. But as you grow, and we can put this in the context of Loship if you want, as you grow and as you raise money, now it's not just you being courageous about you. How do you maintain that courage and just say, we're just going to learn. We're going to optimize for learning. We're going to be okay, and not be afraid of failing. How do you fix that problem?
I never, as a Thai person, I never really satisfied about myself. As I mentioned, I mean, I when I look at it about myself, I always have strong belief about I am the man who was born with a destiny. I don't know if you guys really has that kind of mindset, but I am the guy who was born with a destiny. I want to change this country for better. I don't intend to become politician, but I want to make the impact. I want to change the Vietnamese daily life. Because if you look at in Korea, 40 years ago, the country totally changed in one single generation.
Yep.
China, in the last 20 years, the country totally changed in one single generation. I think if Vietnam not now, it's not Vietnam, then when? So, and I am the man who was born with responsibility. When I think about that, I always think that it's my responsibility to do that. It's my responsibility to do something bigger than what I want to achieve for my personal now.
Right.
Because I never really satisfied with myself. So when you never really satisfied with yourself, you want always you have bigger vision. Then you have bigger vision than your personal benefit. Then at a point you will always can maintain the motivation to do something bigger.
So let me ask you this then. In 20 years, or maybe I'll give you 30 years, what does Vietnam look like after you've created your destiny style change? And so if you could make it into what you wanted it, what would it be? What would it look like?
Somehow it will become another, the living standard somehow will become like Korea or Japan nowadays. We are talking about the good side of the society, right? So Vietnam 20 years is the next 20 years. We want it to become is a good side as a current standard of Korea or Japan nowadays.
That's a great answer.
And but for the company, I don't think that we already reach to we always think that it's just a day one. The day one concept is very popular in a lot of tech companies.
Right.
The concept initially started from Amazon, but I was totally inspired about the concept. The key reason is that it always maintain and remind you that one day you will die. One day you will fall down. One day the company will fall down. Then one day that we another more innovative company gonna break you and make you fail. Because you always maintain the day one mentality. So you always have to keep embracing the challenge. You can always, as a company, have to try to fail to do it again, and that is what we can maintain the mentality every day.
And do you communicate that with your team? Like, do you say exactly what you just say now to your team?
Yeah, in our company we have 6 core values. One, it is a customer obsession.
Okay.
Second, it is a speak. We write. I was obsessed with the core value of the company. Then I write it every single corner in my company. I write it in my website. I write it in my welcome book for the newcomer and the new employee of the company. So 6 core value for us is one, a customer obsession. Second, it is speak matter. 3, it is be supportive. 4, it is be humble. 5th, it is customer obsession, customer superior, be humble, be supportive. So I just forget.
You cannot cheat and look around. You are not at your office now.
So I am at home now, but we try to write every day. Maybe I already stay at home for over 2 months, so I didn't remember everything.
That's okay.
But that's very interesting, I think, because there is like a lot of companies who talk about the culture and like how you onboard the employee and how you achieve the culture when the team is growing, which is not simple, right? Because it's super easy to get like just to be less hard on putting the culture inside the brain of the people. And it looks like Loship is really that value driven and that you really have a mission and you are going somewhere. And that sounds very good, actually, to me.
Yeah, I like a company with a great value set.
So yeah, so go back to your question. Do I say the same thing to the employee? Yes, we do say the same thing to our employee, because so my life is very simple. So my daily life is about the combination of Loship and my personal life. So, but my personal life is just usually very small, because when I wake up, I go to the company, I stay till 10 p.m. in the evening, and then I go back home. So basically, I don't have time with for other relationship. So my life is just about Loship and home.
Exactly. So you've already dated the beauty pageant lady, so you've taken care of that. Now you don't have time for it, which is perfect for you. I like it. I like it. When Loship started in 2017, it wasn't in the same shape as it is today, meaning it wasn't even the same. It didn't have the same objective. What was the original objective of Loship? And then when did it change to be on demand?
So so before Loship, we use the name Loship. So at the time, Loship is an application for people to look for food around them. So let's say if you are staying in Bangkok, you don't know which food you are eating, you're gonna eat. So you will try to find the nearest restaurant. So nowadays food delivery is very popular. Yep. But if you look at into Southeast Asia 5 years ago, food delivery is something is still in the initial phase of the concept. At that time, if you want to eat anything, you have to go out by yourself. So at that time, when we use application, we see that there are a lot of people they use our application to buy and sell things online. But at the time, we can reach the conversation between buyer and seller, but we never really see if the transaction is completed or not.
Happens, yeah.
So then we started to realize that we have to do something to connect buyer and seller and make the transaction happen completely. So we start the Loship with the primary objective is to connecting buyer and seller and make things happen. Gradually, when we grow the Loship, we see that extraordinary growth. We see people use a lot, and not just for delivery, but for everything delivery. So we start looking around and we see that there are a lot of things outside. They are not doing somehow similar to us, but with a more beautiful image, with a more beautiful vision. Why don't we learn from them? Why don't we try to make this company into something much more beautiful than it is up now? So as then we transform it into a much better vision.
And when was that? When did you change the vision of the company?
It is around 2018. Okay. Not really far from when we started the company, because you don't really change if you don't mix the difficulty, right? So it's not one day you read something. It's not something like one day you read something on the internet from someone who raised a lot of fund, then you change the vision of it. It doesn't happen like that.
No
it happen like during you grow the company, you mix the difficult. And one of the biggest difficulty is about the finance. You don't really have enough cash in your bank. So you don't change the bank and you don't change the vision of company because the finance only, but you change because you see that somehow your vision, it is so complicated to talk to other people to understand. Then you start realizing you have to find a better way to talk about your vision to people at the other side. So if they can understand your vision better, somehow they can be persuaded to make the investment into your company.
Right.
And when you fail and you continuously fail to persuade the investor to invest into your company, you realize that you have a problem. So we start thinking, maybe we should rethink about the way we talk about the company, rethink about the way we think about our vision. So, actually, when I think about the failure, a lot of people say they reject us. We never see it's really a failure, So for other people, it's a failure, right? But for us, it's never really a failure. I always try to understand why you reject me. It's not because I complain they don't invest me. It's more about I try to understand the key reason why they don't feel frustrated about my company. So I will try another way to make it in the next time for the next investor,
right,
to be convinced. So that's how we transform and we sharpen the vision.
I think that's very interesting, because I think this episode is full of inspiration for entrepreneurs who want to do things
already,
and we get rejected by investors, or we don't get customers, and and who want to pursue their vision. Because I really feel that Loship and you're really like goal driven and vision driven and value driven also, and that you really know where you're going. And maybe like it took some years, as you say, to sharpen this vision and to put you into the right direction, basically. But I feel right now you kind of know where you're going, right?
No, so
not yet.
We know where we want to become. We know where do we want to do, where do we want to become in the next 3 years. So basically, our vision is very simple. In the next 3 years, whenever people want to buy anything instantly, they think about Loship. You want to buy shampoo instantly, you think about Loship. You want to buy fresh fish, you think about Loship. You want to buy any food, you think about Loship. So basically, we don't try to become next day delivery. We don't try to become another Shopee or Lazada. We try to become the instant application. Whenever you want to buy anything instantly, you think about Loship. That's where we want to become.
How hard is it to be instant? And I'll tell you why. I mean, there are tons of reasons why I want to know this. But like, we take this sometimes to somebody else's office who have a mobile studio, but there are a lot of components of it. Not too many to carry, but we could forget a cable or forget this, that, or the other thing, right? And we always look at each other sort of in the taxi on the way there, in the car on the way there, and say, did we remember the cable for the camera? And it's fatal, right? If we don't have it, it's fatal, because then we can't record, right? Even if it's just audio, if we don't have the XLR cable, we're done.
Yeah.
So we think about this a lot. On demand really matters to us for a bunch of different reasons, but for that, for sure. How hard is it to do that? And then tell me, like, are there products today that you can't do that for?
So there are a lot of aspects. So there are a lot of aspects where we have to convince other people that if the reality of instant is true or not. Because let's say for the investor side, there are a lot of questions we have to answer around. Can the instant model really sustainable?
Right.
Because the key reason is that if you want to make it sustainable, you have to make money. At least you have to make money as a profits, so you don't have to keep raising money from outside.
Right.
That is what. So if you cannot really convince them, you cannot keep attract the next capital to fuel your growth. And if you don't have the growth, you don't have the scale. When you don't have the scale, so basically you cannot generate ethnic value to generate ethnic revenue. So, and that is the first thing. The second thing about, you have to find that way to really balance between demand and supply. Demand is from the customer. Supply is from the driver.
Right.
So if you have a lot of customers, but you don't have enough driver, the customer feel angry.
Right.
And if you have a lot of driver and you don't have enough the customer, so the driver will feel angry because they give up their full-time job to driver for you. And now you cannot really promise a significant earning for a day.
Right.
Like let's say you cannot really guarantee them 20 USD for a day.
Right.
They will be angry.
Because if they're not delivering, they're not earning, right?
Yeah, right. So
Go ahead.
You have to find a way to really balance. And so for that kind of point, so when we start the Loship, we realize that at the end of the day, we also try to put the customer obsession as one of the most critical customer value. But we see that if we have two sides, customer and driver, we cannot grow two sides at the same time. You cannot grow customer 2 times, driver 2 times, customer 10 times, driver 10 times. You cannot do that at the same time.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you have to choose where to focus, driver or customer. You have to know where your anger come from. Or the driver will be angry, or where the customer will be angry. So at the end of the day, we chose us. It's better to make the customer angry in short term, and in the same time we focus to grow the driver. So the concept we develop after that in our model, we book a lot and thousands of promotion for the customer, and the customer, they will grow 100 times. In the same time, we focus 90% of our resource just to recruit the driver. So the driver will grow, like, let's say 30 times. And then when gradually, if we come to the balancing point where the driver and customer will meet each other. So we chose that when we developed the model, we chose that it's better to make sure that let the customer feel angry in short term, because they order, we don't have driver to deliver. They order, but my driver deliver late. But we have to make sure that we can take care of the driver and have enough time to grow the driver. Because acquire customer is much easier than recruit the driver. For that reason, we did that. And I tell you, it is extremely difficult because if you don't have a co-brand, you don't have a co-heart as a leader, you will be really, really hard, to convince your team that we are sticking to this strategy. Right. Because you will receive 100 negative feedback from your customer on your fan page, and they will spam in every single post you post, your post in your fan page, Facebook fan page. They will spam every single post in your Facebook fan page. But you have to live with that moment in short term, maybe 1 month or 2 months. After that, things will get better.
That's completely counterintuitive.
I wouldn't have guessed that
I would have never guessed that. I would have done the exact opposite, actually.
Well, to focus on the customer. Why is it so hard to recruit the driver? In other words, before, because you said they gave up their other job. So what was their other job before? Like on average, what is a driver doing before they started?
Let me tell you an example. I mean, very simple.
Okay.
Let's imagine a driver as your employee, right?
Right.
So if the driver are your employee, so how much time does it take for you to really quit your current job and jump to another company? Usually it will take 30 days. So if the normal people will consider in that certain amount of time. So if you recruit a driver, so basically driver, they have to come from somewhere else, because before they already work for another company, or the driver already have to work for another service, or the driver have to come from another business. Now they jump to you, they work to you. So basically, it is also a transition. They will need a transition before they can completely believe that if they can depend on your service or not. And because it is an on-demand service, so you don't want to you don't need to worry. You don't want to be as a headache. Every day I have to check the revenue per driver, if the driver earn enough money for a day or not. You need to do something that you can consistently increase the driver. I mean, 100, 200, or 300 new driver every day. That's how we do it at such a big scale. So what I'm trying to say is that when the company is small, it's easy for you to complete two sides, customer, driver at the same time.
Right.
But when you want to do at a bigger scale, you have to choose one side. Which side do you want to focus in short term? You can choose customer or you can choose a driver. But I tell you, to convince someone else to make the transition from another service to this service, or to make the transition from another job to this job, it is not easy. So it's much easier to ask the customer to download the application. Right. It is one of the easiest job ever you can do.
Plus, if a delivery is late, let's say you promise somebody 30-minute delivery or an hour delivery and it's late, do you give them a discount on the next order?
Yeah, we give them free meal.
Right, a free thing, right? Because for you, that's a marketing cost. Do you give the drivers work for Loship, or are they gig workers? So they work for themselves, but you pay them based on every delivery, or do they pay a salary and actually work for Loship?
So we don't have a full-time job, full-time contract with them.
Okay.
They just work for us. So when they deliver for us, so they will earn the money. So if the transaction is not completed, they will not earn the money. That's very simple.
So they still have to have orders to deliver, so they earn, right? So like, if you don't have enough customers to give enough orders to all your drivers, then some drivers doesn't make money, then they're not happy, then they go back to their previous job, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is what you don't want, because it's hard to get the drivers. So you want to make sure that your drivers have a job basically, and that they can get paid, so they stay with you, right? That's why you choose to make the customers angry a little bit.
A little bit. Well, because you can always give.
I mean, as a CEO of the company, it's not really a good thing if we say that we want to make the customer happy, right? But at some point as a company, you have to make the sacrifice.
Right.
You have to know where. If you want to zoom from 1 to 2, it's very easy. You can grow customer and driver as a same time. If you want to grow the company from 2 to 3, you can also grow driver and customer as a same time. But if you want to go from 1 to 50, you have to make sacrifice.
That's another story.
It's the CEO's job to choose where to sacrifice.
That's interesting.
Do you get pushback from your employees, at least initially, when they say, because you must have a customer service department, right? So if you say, look, here's what we're going to do. We have this whole idea about growth. We can't grow both at the same time, at the same pace. We're going to grow our customers as much as we can, and we'll apologize to them if anything goes wrong. That's your job. And the drivers, we're going to make sure that they're the happiest people in the world, because if they're earning money, particularly if they're earning more money than they were earning at their previous job on a consistent basis, they'll always work for you. Right? But what is it like internally when you say to your customer service team, don't worry, in 2 months, this will be okay?
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. So, one of my biggest lessons I learned as a CEO is about communication. I think good communication will make a CEO from the good CEO into the great CEO.
Okay.
When I have a lot of conversation with my team, the whole company, and also the customer service team. I tell them that I'm your CEO, but I am also an employee at Loship.
Right.
I understand. I know your feeling. I know for sure that we never want to work for a losing side company, right?
Right.
We never want to work for a losing company. We never want to work for a company who is so bad at customer service. Right. We never want to work for the company. You are embarrassed to tell about the company name. We want to work for a company where we are all proud.
Proud, yep.
But what if we are just an ordinary company? You can tell the company, but nobody knows who you are.
Right.
Now we have to make the sacrifice. And if we make the sacrifice, we don't know if we succeed or not, but at least we only try. But I promise you, this is not my standard. My standard is not the company 1 to become company 2, company 2 to become company 3. My standard is to become one of the greatest tech company in Vietnam. And my customer service team will not be the same as any terrible customer service in other Vietnamese company. We have to be number 1 in customer service. I know our current strategy will make a lot of customers angry, but it is necessary for us to really focus to grow the driver. Because if we cannot grow the driver, so when you go on the street, you will never see our driver. So the key thing right now is that we have to create the story. The driver, they work for Loship, they earn so much money. So they will ask their family to work for Loship. They will ask their friend to work for Loship. So if the driver for a month, they only earn like 200 or 300 US dollar. So basically nobody cares. But however, if a driver who work for Loship and they earn 1,200 USD, so everybody will care. And they earn more money than what you are earning right now. That is my story. I want to tell to ask the driver to work for us. So again, what I'm trying to say is, I will not make you disappointed about this company. And the same as you, I don't want to become the CEO of the losing company.
It's such a great philosophy to have this idea of, what if we just are a normal company? It's so uninspirational, right? So nobody wants to work at just the normal company. And just let me finish this thought for a second. Because I think it's really important.
No problem.
There's this idea of having pride, right? So like I used to work at Goldman Sachs, and on the weekend I had a cap and it said Goldman Sachs on it. Didn't have to say anything or do anything. I was just proud. Super proud.
Right. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And that's the same thing you want to do. It's great, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of I was inspired by Steve Jobs, actually. So I don't idolize anyone, but Steve Jobs inspired a lot about the way I see the world.
Go ahead.
So one of the key things that Steve Jobs said, I work a lot of the speak from the Steve Jobs. He inspired me a lot about the way we focus, the way we make the product cannibalize on the product line. The way Steve Jobs talk about focus. So he inspired. He make me improve the way I speak to others a lot. And
yeah, I mean, one of the things he said about focus is about the stuff you don't do, not necessarily the stuff that you do.
Exactly.
Right.
So usually my work is about I say no a lot, and then I say yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted to say something, Martin?
Actually, no, I just wanted to say that one of Elon Musk's company is called the Boring Company. I think that's funny. just to mention that when we talk about, making a company where we can be proud of, and Elon Musk just called one of his companies the Boring Company. It's just like the complete opposite, right? And I just wanted to mention that.
Maybe that's what I should name my company. The Normal Broadcasting Company.
Yeah, the Normal Company. and actually, it also made me think about wonderful advertising in France for bank that got 50% of our customers for referrals, through word of mouth. And they started this way. It's an online bank. They started through word of mouth. And one day they started to advertise on TV, and their advertising was, we never recommend a OK car or a OK restaurant or OK place. We only recommend what's the best. And most of our customers comes from recommendation. Right. And the first time I saw this ad, I was like, that's so smart. This is so great. And this is exactly what you are doing, right? You want the driver. Actually, I didn't imagine it was so hard to get the driver, and like was like all the complexity of your business was on the driver side. I'm kind of shocked actually to learn about that. I would have never imagined. But you are right. Like if a driver makes money and makes a lot of money and much more money than with other jobs, then it should make your job easier into recruiting them. And normally then we can sacrifice a little bit of customer satisfaction for now, but normally over time, it should ease your business and then make your business grow faster, I guess.
So I just want some simple answers to these questions if you have them. Okay. Because I have a question, a follow-on that's actually much more interesting. How many customers do you think you have? Just around you can estimate.
Right now we have 1 million monthly active customers.
Okay. So you have 1 million active customers. That's a lot in a country that has 100 million people, right? Yep. Second, how many merchants do you have, do you think?
Right now we have over 240,000 merchants.
Okay. So let's call it 250 just to have a round number. You have 250,000 merchants and you have 1 million customers, 1 million sort of consumers, right? And are most of those merchants SMEs, like small businesses, like mom and pop shops?
Yep.
So let's talk about big vision for Loship. Do you consider automating a lot of the processes already? In other words, instead of just, and I don't know what you do yet, but I'm curious about this. Instead of just sending a driver to the shop to pick it up, to deliver it to one of your 1 million customers, build software for all of your 250,000 shops that then helps them manage their books and records so that they know exactly what they're doing. And then on top of that, offer them other financial services because you're already part of their business. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, once you have 1 million here and 250,000 there, in this business, there's probably more than one person. Let's round it up to 3. So now you have 1.75 million people on the Loship platform. Do you offer them business insurance, discontinuity, and like all these things that you can offer them as services? Are you thinking about that as well?
For driver or for merchant?
For the merchant, I mean, you can include the drivers as well, but for the merchants, for sure.
Yep. So, when we think about, when we dig deeper into analyze about our business, what we realize is that the key component of our business is the merchants. For some time when I talk with other people, we also say that we are actually the merchant platform.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, we cannot really succeed if we don't make the merchant success. Because at the end of the day, right now the merchants, they are helping us to sort the item, helping us to packaging the item, helping us to make the inventory for every item. So what we try to see in the long term is that how can we onboard 1 million merchants in Vietnam? Right now we are 250.
Right.
We want to become the backbone of Vietnamese economy. We want every single merchant who starts a business in Vietnam, they have to use Loship. So we foresee that we want 1 million merchants. Because we are so close with the merchant. We are closer to the merchant than Shopee, than Lazada in Vietnam. Because we are the O2O platform, we are the on-demand guy. Like every day, every single day, my driver talk with the merchant every single day. Yeah, my driver talk with the merchant. So we do foresee that we want to do a lot of financial things. Let's say right now in our platform, we have more than 5 million in terms of the money from the selling item from the merchant in our wallet. So the driver go to merchant. They don't pay the money. They take the item. They deliver the item to the customer. Then how will the merchant, they will take back the money.
Right.
So the merchant, they will take back the money from the driver money, take from the customer, will book deposit money into the Loship. So basically, we are having over 5 million USD in terms of money from the selling the item by the merchants.
So you're the merchant's bank, basically.
Exactly. It gives free money, but with a lot of responsibility. But
of course,
basically it's free money, right? With a lot of responsibility. So there are a lot of things we want to do. How can we empower the merchant? How can we automate the process to help the merchant to manage their inventory better?
Right.
To help them to manage their income revenue better. And to help the merchant to grow their brand in a better way. Therefore, we are trying to do a lot in terms of cloud kitchen. I don't know if you know about cloud kitchen, but we do cloud kitchen. We do the BOS, and we also do the wallet, e-wallet, to help the merchant to empower the merchant.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a company in Taiwan called 3 Square. And the 3 Square business is run by a guy, I can't remember his first name, Chow is his last name. American born and raised, but he's building a cloud kitchen business and doing the same thing from the cloud kitchen platform that you're doing from sort of the merchant platform. And that is, providing finance services, providing funding services, providing bookkeeping, providing ordering, providing delivery. Because once you have all those people on your platform, you can become, and that's why I asked that question, the backbone of the entire economy. And if you look at the Vietnamese economy today, if my numbers are correct, something like 40% of the GDP in Vietnam goes through SMEs. So just the merchants that you're dealing with control something like 40% of the economy. That's a big number.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And if you can control all of the finance or all of the sort of financial transactions or financial services that they have, now you are the backbone of the economy. And to loop this back to what you said all the way at the beginning as a man of destiny, all joking aside, it also means that if you can improve that and improve the efficiency, that then you can raise the standard of living in a good way for everybody in the country, right?
Exactly.
And just to add one more thing into
add more. Add 6 more things.
Improving the standard of living for the merchants. I'm wondering, what type of merchants do you have does your market before they join Loship? Are they selling already like on Shopee, on Lazada, or maybe do they have their own website, like, or do they just sell on the street?
Yep. So, the merchant on Shopee and Lazada, usually there are two types. One, who are tech savvy.
Right.
Second, who are the big brand. And who has a person who monitors their store on Shopee and Lazada. But let me give you a typical merchant in our platform. My typical merchant on platform is someone from 40 to 50 years old, or even older, who has a small kiosk,
right,
to sell things, or who has a house in the front of the street, and then who has a family business, and they very traditional, with local mom and pop shop.
Right.
Which means they don't sell on Shopee, they don't sell on Lazada, they just sell in the street.
No.
So you get all of those people who don't sell normally online, you get them online basically, right? And now all of a sudden they can reach a whole new type of customers who are just like further from their street, let's say. And for them, it's like just open a new world, right?
Well, yeah,
exactly.
So initially they can reach the customers on their street much easier.
Much easier as well, yeah.
Right, much easier as well. And particularly during COVID, I bet your business has exploded, right?
Exactly. So we see 5 times new download in terms of customer in our platform. 5 times.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay. I get it. And this type of customer who are not selling online yet, is it like the biggest portion of your merchants at the moment?
Yeah, they're a big portion. So we have 30% of our merchants are food, 30% of the 250. So 30% of food, 50% are local mom and pop shop. The last 20% will be the big retailer or medicine or lottery. So they are accounting for 50% of our our merchant base.
That's a huge number. And how do you get these people to start to sell online, basically? Because if they're not on Shopee, they're not on Lazada, there must be a reason.
Let's go back to the driver part. So when I talk about the driver, so we don't consider the driver is just someone who doesn't belong to our organization, even we don't have a full-time contract. We always believe that the driver is an essential part of our organization. So at the end of the day, right, the driver, when they go to work, they also want to find a place where they belong to, even they don't have the full-time contract. Like when we work, right? So we, as the person on earth, we always try to find a place where we belong to. Because, the Starbucks vision is to become the third place. So the more I grow up, the more I realize how powerful the vision is. Because at the end of the day, you always have the company. You always have your home. Somehow you will try to find the third place where it's not home, it's not your company. So here, the feeling when you do something you want to belong, it is true. So we think that the driver are true. We want to see the driver as an essential part of our organization. For that reason, the way we onboard the merchant, we totally depend on the driver. Because we know for sure that my employee cannot onboard the merchant. I mean, my employee is someone who is millennial generation, who like Facebook, Instagram, who like TikTok, who like flashy photo, who like beautiful landscape. They are not the person who really go to the dirty place, who not the person who go to the non-air conditioned merchant to talk to the merchant, to almost the merchant, to list the item.
That's funny.
So we see that if we can utilize the driver, so the driver can help us to onboard the merchant by we give them a reward. So usually when the merchant, they help us to onboard one merchant, we will reward the merchant $0.25 USD.
So tell me if this is the idea, because I think I get it and I love it actually. Let's say there's a neighborhood where you have no drivers and no merchants.
Yeah.
It's just plain, it's greenfield, right? So there's no Loship there. if you can get a driver that's from that neighborhood, that's your win number one, right? Because he knows everybody in the neighborhood. That's first thing. And then if you can train him in kind of a subtle way to be a salesperson for Loship, not for any particular shop, that's win number two. Right? And then if you can have him or her go out to the shop and say, oh, I work for Loship and we can do all your stuff in an hour and increase your business statistically, however they explain it, that's win number three. And then if you can just keep repeating that at scale, then you can have a business that's worth the backbone of the Vietnamese economy because it's super local, but can scale nationally. Does that make sense?
Exactly. That's what we are doing.
I got it.
Because if you can do that at such a scale, you will be totally different from your competitor.
Right. And no one's doing that. No one has that philosophy around every driver is a salesperson. And if you, because I was going to ask you that, is there a bonus for them if they sign up a new merchant? Right. If that merchant stays for 6 months. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
They had 0.25 USD.
That's a real number though.
Yeah. So usually the one driver, they can earn bonus in a month is around $50 for the bonus. So if you realize 50, so the driver can take up to 200 new merchants for you. One single driver can help you to onboard 200 new merchants.
Yeah, but 200 times 25 is like 5,000. No, what is it? 2 times 25 is 50, 500. It's like $5,000.
Yep.
That's real money.
Yep. Real money.
What's the average annual salary for sort of a middle-class worker in Vietnam?
Middle-class worker, it will be around 2,000.
Right. So so the GDP per capita
2,000 will be the manager level. Right. You are from 30 years old to 40 years old. So you earn 2,000.
Right. So if a new driver can get you 100 customers, it's $2,500. That's like a yearly salary for a middle manager at a bank.
Yeah.
And that's real. Okay. That's a great idea.
That's interesting. And I guess your merchants are super happy, right? Because they must see an increase in sales. Like, do they see that? Do they see like a significant increase in sales thanks to Loship and to the very quick delivery?
So there are two kinds. So in theory, if you understand about the hyperlocal commerce, you will realize that usually the traditional merchant, they can only approach the merchant, approach the customer in the neighborhood.
Right.
Someone who go in offline to buy the stuff from your store. Now, they have a bigger opportunity to access to the customer in the radius of 5 kilometers away from the store. So we do see, we cannot say income percentage for every merchant.
Shop. Yeah.
There will be some merchant who don't have any sale, but there will be some merchant who already adapted with the online, the digital platform, who know how to make it more beautiful and more attractive to the customer.
Right.
So they can increase their revenue significantly. But their revenue increase in every index.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making the best cakes, let's say, in some neighborhood, but you only get walk-by traffic, if you can then, I presume part of what Loship does is advertise as well, so people can discover new things that they didn't know existed. There's got to be a decent business doing that as well.
Yep.
But if you spend the right marketing money on it, then the person who's making those great cakes in neighborhood A could sell all the way over to neighborhood B and C as long as they're within a 5-kilometer radius. Some stuff doesn't need to get moved, like if it's milk or whatever. That's uniquely local. But great food people will wait for. And they'll go, wait a second, there's something awesome over there. They want to buy that and bring it in.
Exactly.
I want to ask you one more thing as well. Your whole business is predicated on the fact that the merchants are connected to the internet and that your drivers have connectivity and that your connectivity doesn't go down. Do you ever consider like connectivity insurance and selling that to your merchants and your drivers?
Connectivity insurance.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Connectivity.
Well, let's say the internet goes down in a neighborhood for like 2 hours. Everybody that's on your platform is out of business. Anyway, just something to think about.
I will definitely try to research more about that.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I had one question. I know we are almost over time, right?
No, there's no time limit. I keep going, but I don't want to take too much of his time because he's running a massive business.
You're right.
Every minute he's on the phone, he's losing 5 more drivers and 100 more merchants. He's got stuff to do.
That's very expensive. That's very expensive to be on our show. That's right, because we have so many questions.
We need to send him some money.
No, my pleasure to talk with you guys.
So maybe if we can just because it's a question I'm waiting for days to ask you. Because I'm very interested into this. Do you see Loship expand internationally first? And then I will ask you my second question.
Expand nationwide?
No, not internationally.
Outside of Vietnam, so into Thailand or into Malaysia or into Indonesia.
Yeah, we do. Recently, we reached an article about Flash open the business in Laos, right? Flash, the unicorn of Thailand. Yep. So we do want to expand. We just don't want to become the Vietnam only company.
Right.
My objective is to reach to 20 cities in Vietnam this year. And then we expand Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka.
Okay. How hard do you think it's going to be to expand? Behind that, I have 2 thoughts. First of all, do you think your success that you've been having so far with Loship, to get the driver and your whole philosophy, do you think it's going to work the same way in other countries? For example, Thailand, for example, Cambodia. Yeah, first, let's say that.
So the way I see about the future success is not obviously. I mean, I cannot, as a CEO, I want to do regional expansion.
Right.
But in the reality, as a fact, I have to confess, I don't know yet if we can expand or not. But we are not willing to change the philosophy, because the philosophy we are success nowadays. We hope we can replicate the same philosophy to other regions. And because we think that is a philosophy that it is very about the human. It is very about the driver. So we think we can replicate it in another reason. So honestly, I think it will be very hard to expand. But we just don't want to become Vietnam only company. We do want to become the regional company. So time will tell if we can really see the success or not in the regional expansion.
You owe it to yourself to try, right? Because the economics in Bangladesh, it's actually a no-brainer. Because if you understand the population density in Dhaka, it's one of the most densely populated cities in the world. So doing on-demand delivery should be much easier even than in the big cities in Vietnam and even the second-tier cities that are more spread out. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in Bangladesh as well, everybody's on a mobile phone. So the mobile phone penetration is really good. And there's also big government support in Bangladesh for these types of businesses. They want to promote that type of thing as well. I think Bangladesh is a great place to do this. There are some companies there that are trying to do some other things, but not in the same way. And I think you could have the same neighborhood success. I'd be curious to see it play out in Thailand as well. But I think it's hard. It's really hard, but not impossible, yeah?
The day you come in Thailand, please take an office here in Food Digital Park so we can see you often. and we can
No way, he doesn't want to talk to us. We're just bothering him.
But we want to talk to him.
We want to talk to him. But I mean, we can't even pronounce his name properly. I'm afraid for the end of this to thank him for I'm just going to get it wrong again.
And just before we leave you, what about thorough expansion, Europe, USA, into really completely different kind of commerce organization, let's say? Did you ever thought about it? Do you have any kind of of thoughts?
Talk about what? Sorry, my
Europe, for example. Do
like expanding to Europe
in Paris.
So let me share sincerely. So I traveled to US, I traveled to Europe, but I think it's a wider society operate in Vietnam, and also in Asian culture. It much different to the US, also the Europe.
Completely different, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. So recently, I see there's another company in Turkey named Getia do expand to Europe and also the US. So they're trying to do a very adventurous move. Okay. But will it be a successful move or not? We cannot tell it right now. Yeah. Yep. So what we do think is that we want to see the way we want to expand to the society where it has some similarity, some standard living like Vietnamese nowadays.
Right.
Where we feel more comfortable to expand our knowledge and philosophy to that reason.
That's very interesting, because the reason why I asked you that, because on DrTech we got also like a bunch of sellers, and we see that when we reduce the shipping time, and that the customer can get his item much faster, then the conversion on the stores are much higher, and like the sellers at the end of the day sells much more. And like I imagine if tomorrow we can deliver the customer in 2 hours, that's a game changer for the e-commerce side. Like, so not for the mom and pop shop who sell on the street, but for the guy who sell online and who has a website, and can like tomorrow deliver in 2 hours in Paris. That would be very different. Like they already do that for food, right? Like with Deliveroo and Food Panda and this kind of companies. They are all based on super fast delivery. But what about any kind of e-commerce stuff, right? And as e-commerce like grown so much the last like 2 years, like COVID helped a lot. And so like people are much more used to buying online and selling online and all of that kind of stuff. If tomorrow we can say, hey guys, we can deliver in 2 hours in Paris, that's really, really, really different kind of growth for e-commerce. Because there's always, something that might stop people from buying online is that if I go to the shop, it's faster to get my item. I can spend maybe 2 hours to go to the shop, 5 minutes to buy online, but 5 minutes I buy online, I get my item in 3 days. Totally 3 days. 2 hours to go to the shop, I have my item in 2 hours. But if tomorrow buying online becomes faster than going to the shop, that's another story, I think. And there's tons of people staying online. So like, why not do that in cities like Paris or Berlin or...
And that is a great thought on which to end this conversation, having 1 hour delivery in Paris.
Yeah.
We really want to thank you for doing this, dude. Really appreciate it. Just the honesty, the insights, and just the fun of this conversation.
Do you guys really enjoy?
Yeah, had a blast. And you tell me, wasn't this better than TechCrunch? Really?
It's much better. It's much better.
Okay. Thank you, Trung, for coming on and doing this. The co-founder and CEO of Loship. I really appreciate it. We both really appreciate it. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much.